An uprising against President Biden in a critical swing state. Michigan Democratic Representative Rashida Tlaib leading a charge in her home state, calling on residents to vote uncommitted in Michigan's primary next week. Tlaib's protest against the president in response to his handling of the Hamas-Israel war. The Congresswoman, who is the first Palestinian American woman to serve in Congress, saying her community feels, quote, completely neglected and unseen by our government. So here with us now to discuss, we welcome in Democratic strategist Laura Fink. Laura, thank you so much for your time here. First of all, let's just talk about what voting uncommitted in the Michigan primary would really mean for President Biden.
It means a couple of things, Nichole. In the primary, it sends a very strong signal that there are a block of voters that are unpersuaded that his stance in the Middle East conflict between the Hamas and Israel is where it should be. I think it also shows that they're willing to show up and vote their consciences. So this is something Biden is going to have to contend with politically and also from a policy perspective.
You know, and Laura, there is this growing discontent at how President Biden is handling the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Obviously, we know there's only so much he can do, but we are in an election year. How concerned is his campaign right now?
They see the same numbers that have been released publicly, and there is a growing call among young voters and certainly among Arab American and Muslim voters for a ceasefire, for an end to the hostilities and the high death toll that we're seeing in Gaza. And while President Biden is pursuing delicate negotiations to see that the hostages are released, he has to contend with those forces at home and also abroad. We saw 13 out of the 15 members of the UN Security Council voting in favor of a resolution for a ceasefire just today. So this is something, there is growing international pressure and certainly the pressure of those voters in that critical swing state of Michigan.
Yeah, and this pressure has not let up at all. Laura, you are a political strategist. Do you think the president's approach to what's happening in Gaza, to what the U.S. is requesting, will change as we get ever closer to November?
It will, yes. And I think it will also change as circumstances change and as his focus changes. He has to listen to those voices coming out of Michigan and other voices in favor of ensuring that humanitarian aid get to Gaza, that the death toll is not so significant and tragic. And he has to listen to those voices because those are voters coming in that he needs in November. But he also has to ensure that what he's working on behind the scenes, which we don't always see, is something that comes into an outcome that is positive amid all of this war. So he has to strike a delicate balance. But here's where the silver lining is. You know, you may say a bunch of voters voting uncommitted is a sign of weakness. In fact, it has the possibility for strength because those voters are organized around an issue that they care deeply about. And as Biden works through his policy with respect to Gaza and the Middle East, he will be forced to address those voters. So that's a group of voters that, if satisfied, will certainly come out again on Election Day rather than sit on their hands or wait it out.
You know, one of Trump, I want to look at the other side of this, because one of Trump's top advisors posted a link to a story about this effort by Tlaib to get these people to vote uncommitted. How much is this contributing to a potential split within the Democratic Party and, on the other side, a potential win for Republicans?
The act of asking voters to vote uncommitted, I don't think splits the party any more than it's already split, although I can understand Republican strategists salivating at any sort of division in the opposition. But it does have the potential to galvanize these voters in favor of Biden should the process and should the situation in Gaza evolve. And should he do things to repair that relationship? That's a block of voters ready to support him should he come around.
All right, you're certainly looking on the bright side there. Democratic strategist Laura Fink, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.